On a crisp, clear Christmas's Eve, Gilbert had laid his beloved mother to rest. A year later, almost to the day, a woman stood on his porch, a small child beside her. "This is for you," she had whispered, "from your mother." Gilbert Miller stepped out of his charcoal grey sedan, its engine still humming softly in the twilight. He carefully pulled grocery bags, heavy with the promise of a quiet evening meal, from the back seat. A sigh escaped him, a puff of white in the cold air, as his worn leather boot slipped on a treacherous patch of black ice. His foot plunged into a frozen puddle, sending a jolt up his leg. For a heart-stopping moment, he felt like a novice tightrope walker teetering on the edge of a great fall. This day wasn't improving. It had started with a well-meaning but relentless grilling from his colleagues at the architecture firm. They simply couldn't fathom why Gilbert wouldn't be at the annual holiday gala. Their astonishment bordered on horror, as if he'd confessed to a secret life of extreme sports rather than politely declining a festive evening. Two of his co-workers, Sophia and Grace, were particularly persistent. They had made separate pilgrimages to his drafting table. Sophia had brought him homemade gingerbread cookies, shaped like little angels, while Grace had offered him a mug of spiced chai, fragrant with cinnamon and star anise. "Are you sure you won't change your mind? We'll be lost without you," they had cooed, their expressions a mix of genuine concern and playful disappointment. Gilbert honestly didn't understand the fuss. The holiday season to him meant cosy nights by the fire, perhaps a classic film and a good book. The office party, with its forced cheer and awkward small talk, felt like a chore. Besides, the firm's lead architect could surely manage a party without him. His closest friend and colleague, Patrick, a systems analyst with a knack of understanding people, gently explained the source of the ladies' distress. "I overheard them," Patrick confided, a mischievous glint in his eye. "They were comparing notes on the gowns they ordered. Apparently, they had a wager of which one you'd prefer." "But I'm hardly a fashion connoisseur, and my taste is more practical than Parisian runway," Gilbert mumbled, rubbing the back of his neck. "You're brilliant with blueprints, old man, but sometimes you're as dense as a brick wall." Patrick chuckled. "You're practically the last eligible bachelor left in the entire company. Of course they're trying to impress you. Plus, you just got that big promotion. You're quite the catch now, and not bad to look at either." Patrick appraised his friend with a thoughtful gaze. Gilbert, with his steady grey eyes and a shock of dark brown hair, possessed a quiet strength. His shoulders were broad, his waist trim, a lasting testament to a childhood spent in the cool embrace of a swimming pool. His mother Vivian had once playfully worried he'd grow gills, so devoted was he to his laps. Adulthood had curtailed his pool visits, but the swimmer's physique remained. "Oh, thanks a lot," Gilbert said, rolling his eyes good-naturedly. "Any time, pal. You're not going to eat that. Mind if I do?" Patrick reached across the desk and snagged a gingerbread angel, promptly biting off its head. Delicious. Ever since I became the proud father of 2 energetic boys, all I get are stale crackers and leftover cereal." Gilbert offered a soft chuckle. Patrick, thoughtful for a moment, waved the now headless cookie. "Listen, seriously, think about my offer, okay? My family would love for you to celebrate with us. My daughter Lily adores you, and the boys look up to you." He made the offer what felt like 100 times. "Besides, someone has to save me from my mother-in-law's infamous broccoli casserole. I tell her every year I don't like broccoli, and she still piles it on my plate. Says it's a holiday tradition. Where is that written? The holiday cookbook of ancient truths, God forbid. Commandment number 7, thou shalt not forsake the casserole, and it shall not forsake thee. Gilbert couldn't help but laugh, his gaze softening as he looked at his friend. Patrick, adorned in a ridiculously festive sweater emblazoned with leaping reindeer, sat perched on Gilbert's desk, legs swinging as he devoured the cookies. His mood was clearly infectious. Indeed, the entire office buzzed with joyful anticipation. Tiny pine trees adorned desks, wreaths hung on every door, and strings of twinkling lights draped across cubicle walls. Colleagues, typically clad in crisp shirts and tailored suits, had embraced the absurdity of silly sweaters. Today was the last working Friday of the year, a shortened day. Later, dressed in their finest, they'd gather at the Grand Ballroom. Gilbert, however, planned to lock himself away, far from the delightful chaos. But escaping the holidays was easier said than done. Festive melodies assaulted his ears in the grocery store. Every shop window seemed to feature cheerful snowmen and Santa figurines, and the cashiers wore glittery elf hats. "Thanks, Patrick. I really appreciate the offer," Gilbert said, his voice softer now. "But this year, I just don't have the heart for it. I don't want to bring a cloud to anyone else's celebration." Patrick nodded understandingly, leaning forward to clap a hand on Gilbert's shoulder. "It'll get better." Gilbert didn't respond. He didn't want to argue, but Patrick was wrong. How could things possibly get better? Nothing could bring his mother back, the only person who had understood him completely, his truest confidant. Vivian had raised Gilbert on her own, a bright young woman navigating university when she discovered she was pregnant. The boy's father had vanished, unwilling to shoulder the responsibility, but Vivian, with a quiet strength, decided she would manage. And she did. Looking back, sifting through the precious memories, Gilbert knew he had been luckier than many children in so-called complete families. Vivian had been a vibrant, spirited, insightful and understanding mother. She loved Gilbert with a boundless, forgiving and genuine affection, always his champion, nurturing every one of his dreams and pursuits. Gilbert's childhood had been a tapestry woven with threads of everyday magic. December, in particular, shimmered with a special kind of enchantment. He remembered with a warmth that spread through his chest how his mother Vivian would once scatter a trail of flour from the front door to the twinkling evergreen in their living room. She'd borrow a pair of oversized boots from their neighbour, old Mr. Henderson, and carefully stamped large, mysterious footprints across the floor. Then, on Christmas morning, she'd wake him gently, her eyes sparkling, and point to the powdery tracks. "Look, Gilbert!" she'd declare with a hushed awe that mirrored his own. "Santa Claus visited!" They also shared the cherished tradition of writing Christmas letters every year. At first, young Gilbert would simply draw his wishes, his small hands carefully sketching out toy trains and superhero figures, because he hadn't yet mastered writing. Later, Vivian patiently taught him how to form the letters, guiding his hand until he could pen his own hopes. She'd carefully tuck each letter into an envelope, addressing it simply to Santa Claus, North Pole, and then they'd walk hand in hand to the old post office on Main Street. Gilbert would personally drop his letter into the mail slot, a thrilling mix of anticipation and belief bubbling in his heart. Even now, he wondered where those letters truly went. He suspected the kind postman probably just recycled them, but the magic of the ritual had always been real. As Gilbert grew a little older, and whispers started circulating in kindergarten, rumours that Santa wasn't real, Vivian, ever resourceful, conjured up a new deception. One winter night, when Gilbert was tucked snugly in bed, softly snoring, she gently shook his shoulder. "What?" he grumbled, rubbing sleep from his eyes, annoyed at being disturbed. "Shh!" Vivian whispered, her eyes wide with a playful secret, a finger pressed to her lips. "Quiet! Gilbert, I think someone's here." Sleep vanished instantly. Gilbert peered towards his bedroom door, a flicker of apprehension mixed with a sudden surge of protectiveness for his mother. But Vivian didn't look afraid. A sly smile played on her lips, and her eyes danced with excitement. "I think we might be able to catch a glimpse of Santa Claus. But we have to be super quiet, or we'll scare him away. If he sees us, he won't leave the presents." Gilbert's cheeks flushed with a thrill, his heart quickening its beat. He slipped his feet into the dog-shaped slippers and clutched his mother's hand. They crept silently down the dark hallway, their breaths held, before peeking around the doorframe into the living room, and there, bathed in the twinkling glow of the beautifully adorned Christmas tree, someone was indeed there. Gilbert's heart caught in his throat, shrinking with a surge of disbelief and wonder. It was him, humming a soft, festive tune. Santa was placing gifts under the tree, pulling them from his voluminous sack. Gilbert was afraid to blink, afraid to miss a single precious moment. He didn't notice that his mother wasn't even watching the magnificent scene unfold. Instead, with a radiant smile and eyes wet with tears of pure joy, she gazed at her son. Then she gently touched his hair, kissed the top of his head, and whispered, "We need to get back to bed now. He can't see us." Gilbert nodded, backing away slowly, unable to tear his eyes from the magical sight. His mother tucked him back into bed, pulling the warm quilt up to his chin, then lay beside him, her arm wrapping around him in a comforting embrace. A little later, they heard heavy footsteps, then the soft click of the front door closing. Gilbert knew Santa had left, but the magic, a lingering warmth, remained nestled deep within his heart. As Gilbert grew into a young man, he eventually understood why his mother cherished the holidays so deeply. Vivian's own childhood had been marked by scarcity, a quiet greyness. She'd lived with her grandparents who, while providing for her, often made her feel like a burden. There were no dolls or plush animals under their Christmas tree, no whimsical treasures. Instead, there were practical necessities, sensible sweaters, sturdy boots, and bottles of shampoo. That's likely why she worked so tirelessly to make her son's childhood different, filled with vibrant experiences. She constantly took him to plays, holiday concerts, and festive gatherings, showering him with gifts, each one chosen with loving care. Of course, there came a time when Gilbert, like most teenagers, began to push back. He longed to spend Christmas Eve with his friends, craving the independence of his own social world. His mother, always understanding, would simply ask him to share a quiet dinner with her and wait for the chimes of midnight. After the last stroke of the clock, she'd then meet her own friends for a more subdued celebration, and he'd head off to join his buddies. Now he would give anything to sit across from his mother at the dining table just one more time, to watch her blush as she frantically tried to make all her wishes before the final chime, eagerly downing a glass of sparkling wine. He remembered one year she was so rushed she choked, the wine bubbling out of her nose, making them both erupt in laughter, even as she playfully lamented that her wish wouldn't come true. Gilbert never knew if his mother truly believed in the magic of those wishes, or what she even wished for. She guarded that secret with the precision of a national treasure. But Gilbert knew, with a certainty that was etched into his soul, that wishes made with a glass of champagne in hand didn't always come true. He had learned that hard truth just last year. He had wished with every fibre of his being for his mother to recover, but it hadn't worked. Neither the wishes nor the skilled oncologists could save her. Vivian had lost her valiant battle with cancer, passing peacefully in late spring. Just before her passing, Gilbert's fiancée Elizabeth had broken off their engagement. She'd claimed he was devoting too much time to his mother and not enough to her. Their final argument had erupted when Gilbert drove his mother to a city several hours away for a crucial chemotherapy treatment. Elizabeth had been furious, indignant that he would miss her best friend's elaborate wedding, a grand affair she had been eagerly anticipating. Gilbert had tried to explain, tried to make her understand that he couldn't possibly be cheering at a reception while his mother was enduring such a gruelling procedure. But Elizabeth hadn't wanted to hear it. She wanted to be first, always first, and Gilbert, with his heart irrevocably tied to his mother's well-being, couldn't give her that. And so here he was, December once again, the festive season hovering on the horizon. For the first time, Gilbert would be truly alone on this holiday night. The closer Christmas's Eve loomed, the more Gilbert felt like a disgruntled Grinch from that old children's book, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. The only difference, he mused, was that he hadn't yet started sneaking into his neighbours' homes to steal their decorations or gifts. Not yet, anyway. This year he hadn't put up a tree, hadn't decorated his apartment. He hadn't even bothered to pull the boxes of twinkling lights and ornaments from the attic. His home didn't smell of baked apples and cinnamon, or of warm honeyed ginger tea. No festive music filled the air. It seemed to Gilbert that when his mother had departed this world, she had taken the holiday spirit with her, along with all the cherished traditions she had loved so dearly. Perhaps, to an outsider, Gilbert's quiet reverence for these holiday memories might seem overly sentimental, but he couldn't help it. Even the thought of gingerbread cookies couldn't tempt him. His mother, Vivian, had always baked her famous cake for the holidays. She'd transformed uneven layers of dark chocolate and vanilla sponges into a high cylinder, cementing them together with a rich, tangy cream cheese frosting. Then, with a playful flourish, she'd adorn this sweet construction with little sugar cookies shaped like miniature evergreen trees. Guests who visited their home eagerly anticipated this quirky confection, praising its unique charm. Vivian had never shared the recipe, guarding it like a family heirloom. "Only your wife will get this recipe, Gilbert," she'd declare each year, a twinkle in her eye. "You're no help in the kitchen, anyway. You can barely make scrambled eggs without an adventure, so I'll pass it on to my daughter-in-law. It must be passed down through the generations." Christmas's Eves had been varied, some filled with laughter and friends, others quiet and intimate. But never once had Gilbert heard the strike of midnight without his mother by his side. He also harboured a particular fondness for the morning of January 1st, the leftover quiches and delicate canapés from the night before, devoured with relish for breakfast, always tasted inexplicably better. He'd wash it all down with a steaming mug of sweet tea, followed by a thick slice of buttered toast, crowned with glistening salmon roe. And then his mother would bring out the remnants of her gloriously rich crumbly cake. As Gilbert drifted deeper into the comforting haze of these treasured recollections, the vibrant presence of Sophia appeared at his office door, her face alight with a wide, hopeful smile. Her face faltered, however, when she spotted Patrick and the half-empty box of gingerbread angels in his hands. "Patrick Donovan!" Sophia exclaimed, a faint squeak in her voice. "I baked those for Gilbert!" "Oh, was there a love potion in them then?" Patrick teased, waving a cookie at her. Or did you whisper incantations over the dough by moonlight? Look, Sophia, if you steal me from my wife, I'll show up in your life with twin toddlers in tow." Sophia blushed, a rosy hue spreading across her cheeks. Gilbert, even quicker to deflect, smoothly intervened. "Sophia, I tried your cookies. They're absolutely delicious. That's why I decided to share them with my friend." He offered a small, reassuring lie. "Really?" Sophia's smile returned, and she tucked a strand of her light brown hair behind her ear. "So, have you reconsidered for tonight?" "Not yet," Gilbert said, shaking his head gently. Sophia sighed, a tiny sound of disappointment. Gilbert looked at her. She was a pretty woman with soft, rounded cheeks and long dark hair, but his heart remained steadfastly unfluttered. Perhaps, he mused, he simply needed more time after his last relationship. When the abbreviated workday finally drew to a close, Gilbert felt a quiet relief wash over him. He made his way to the grocery store, patiently navigated the queue of eager shoppers desperate for turkey, oranges and sparkling wine, and was on the home stretch. Only a short distance separated him from the sanctuary of his apartment. "Almost Happy New Year, Gilbert dear," his neighbour Mrs. Henderson chirped, her voice as bright as a jingle bell, as she caught up to him. Gilbert quickly morphed his contemplative expression into one of polite cordiality. "And the same to you, Mrs. Henderson." "Isn't this weather just marvellous?" the woman continued, undeterred by his brevity. "Winter has really outdone itself for the holidays." She inhaled deeply, savouring the crisp air, her gaze fixed on the large, fluffy snowflakes swirling gracefully in the air. A familiar pang, sharp and unwelcome, pricked Gilbert's heart. He remembered how his mother, stepping out of their old apartment building, would take a similar deep breath. She used to say the snowflakes looked like tiny ballerinas in their airy tutus, performing delicate pas de trois. To young Gilbert, they had always looked more like shimmering ice gnats. "Indeed," Gilbert murmured, though his unspoken thought was, "Please don't say anything more." His mind drifted back to his drive home from the office. The snow, perhaps, delighted the carefree residents of the city. Children, for instance, had been out since early Saturday morning, gleefully taking advantage of their school holiday. Their squeals echoed through the courtyard as they engaged in snowball fights, tumbled into snowdrifts and built snowmen, mostly noseless ones, as no one had thought to bring carrots from home. And no child dared return home too soon. Their mothers would surely drag them inside for hot cocoa at the sight of soggy boots or runny noses. But for drivers, the winter season held a different meaning. It meant waking up earlier to excavate your car from beneath a snowdrift. You were lucky if you remembered which mound of white was yours, and unlucky if you dug out your neighbour's vehicle by mistake, though the neighbour, of course, would offer their sincere gratitude. Then came the challenging drive on icy roads, visibly obscured by the relentless snowfall, and the added bonus of muddy slush flung onto your windshield by passing cars. Drivers during snowstorms seemed to lose all sense of spatial awareness. Accidents multiplied, traffic jams clogged the city's arteries, and 30-minute commutes stretched into endless journeys. Mrs. Henderson seemed poised to add another comment, but Gilbert deftly slipped past her. Out of the corner of his eye he noticed his neighbour was carrying a mesh bag overflowing with vibrant orange tangerines. Even the sight of them, so inherently festive, seemed to prick at his raw grief. At last Gilbert was home. He exhaled, the sound a soft whoosh of relief. His welcome committee was his dog Daisy, a fluffy golden retriever mix with a perpetually wagging tail, and eyes the colour of warm caramel, whom Gilbert had rescued from the local shelter 2 years prior. He calmly unpacked the groceries, settled Daisy's dinner into her bowl, and then turned his attention to preparing his own meal. He slid a small, herb-crusted turkey into the warm oven. While the small, herb-crusted turkey roasted, filling his apartment with a comforting aroma, Gilbert uncapped a chilled bottle of his favourite craft ale. As he savoured the first cool, hoppy sips, a fleeting thought crossed his mind. Perhaps life isn't so bad after all. But then a sudden, insistent knock echoed from his front door. Gilbert nearly jumped. He wasn't expecting anyone, nor did he wish to see anyone. The knock came again, firmer this time. Daisy, his golden retriever mix, barked excitedly from the hallway, as if questioning why her human hadn't yet greeted their mysterious visitors. Gilbert set his ale down and shuffled towards the door. "Stay, girl," he murmured, motioning to Daisy. The dog, ever obedient, padded back a respectful distance and lay down, tail thumping softly. On his porch stood a woman and a small boy, both complete strangers to him. He was certain they weren't neighbours he knew. The pair were flushed from the winter air, their cheeks painted bright rose by the cold. Snowflakes clung to their coats, nestled in the child's wool hat, and sparkled in the woman's soft auburn hair. "Hello," the little boy burst out, his adorable smile stretching from ear to ear. "Good afternoon," the woman echoed, her voice surprisingly gentle, like the chime of wind bells. Gilbert stared, bewildered, first at the child, then at the woman. He couldn't help but notice how remarkably young she looked, almost like his mother might have at that age. "Hello, can I help you?" he asked, already spotting a small box clutched in the boy's hands. He figured they were either selling something, taking advantage of pre-holiday goodwill, or perhaps collecting donations. "Are you Gilbert?" the boy inquired with a serious, business-like tone, clearly very proud of his role. "I was this morning," Gilbert sighed, a hint of weariness in his voice. The child beamed, tilting his head back to look at his mother. With the sudden movement, his hat slipped down over his eyes. The woman chuckled, a short, melodic sound, and gently adjusted his headwear. Gilbert felt a strange, prickling sensation within him, a curious sense of familiarity. It must be the acoustics of the hallway, he reasoned, making the stranger's laughter sound so much like tiny bells. Yes, that had to be it. Yet Gilbert still found himself involuntarily drawn to the young woman. Her blue eyes sparkled, her smile was soft, and her features were delicately framed. The woman nodded to her son, a silent encouragement. The boy, puffing out his cheeks with importance, extended his arms. "Here, this is for you." The child wasn't wearing mittens, and his small fingers were red with cold, but he held the box steady. "For me?" Gilbert echoed, not quite reaching for the unknown object. He hadn't ordered anything, and they certainly didn't look like delivery people. "Yes, for you," the boy nodded emphatically. "It was left at our door. I opened it thinking it was for me, but it was for you, so we decided to bring it." "Yes, that's right," the woman confirmed, her gaze apologetic. "I'm so sorry, I didn't see it. Andrew found the package first when he came in from playing. He'd already opened it. He's sometimes a little too quick for his own good." Gilbert frowned, but finally took the box. "And who is it from?" he murmured aloud, more to himself than to them. He didn't get a chance to read the label. The boy, as if reciting a well-rehearsed line, chirped, "It's from Vivian Miller." Gilbert froze, instantly, as if the child's words were a spell, capable of chilling everything around him. He struggled to draw a breath, his fingers tightening around the small package. "What?" he rasped, his voice raw. "No, that's impossible." He turned the package over, his eyes frantically scanning the label. Yes, it was from his mother. But how? From the other side? Straight from heaven? He felt a dizzying rush, convinced he might embarrassingly faint. Blood pounded in his ears. He was assailed by a wave of heat, then a sudden chill. He tried to think rationally, but the puzzle defied logic. Even if his mother had sent him a package beforehand, why had it taken so long to arrive? If it had simply been lost, how had it found its way to these strangers? "Are you all right?" the woman asked, stepping forward. Concern etched on her face. "Can I help you? I'm a nurse." Gilbert shook his head, struggling to regain his composure. Someone opened the building's main door, letting a draught of cold air into his warm apartment. Only then did he realise he was still keeping his guests on the threshold. "Oh, please, come in." He stepped aside. The woman seemed about to politely decline, but the boy, Andrew, eagerly darted into the apartment, pulling off his hat. "Oh, what a pretty dog you have!" Andrew exclaimed, spotting Daisy. "And it smells like food. I'm so hungry. We drove a long way to get here. What are you cooking?" The woman gasped, blushing fiercely. "Andrew, you stop that. I'm so sorry. Please," she stammered, gently taking her son by the shoulders. Gilbert, a soft smile finally gracing his lips, reassured her. "It's perfectly fine. I have a small turkey in the oven, though I'm hardly a master chef. We'll be lucky if it doesn't get burned." He hadn't even realised the next words were leaving his lips until they were out. "Would you like to stay for dinner? There's plenty for everyone." Gilbert knew suddenly that he didn't want to be alone tonight. And besides, these kind strangers with their unexpected delivery felt like a comforting bridge to his mother's last message. The woman still hesitated, but Andrew pleaded so sweetly to stay, his eyes wide with hope, that she finally relented. Gilbert led them into his cosy living room. Andrew immediately began playing with Daisy, while the woman, introducing herself as Catherine, helped Gilbert set the table. Catherine, her beauty radiating a gentle warmth, explained how the package had ended up at their home. "You live on Miller Street number 101, right?" she asked, wiping plates with a kitchen towel. "Well, we live on Millard Street, same number, 101. And our last names are even similar. I'm Catherine Millward," she explained with a bright, hopeful cheer. Gilbert's mind raced, picturing a map of their town, and he nearly dropped a serving dish. "Where are you from? That's over an hour's drive, even on a good day," he exclaimed, genuinely surprised. "And today the roads are terrible. It seems everyone in the city decided to go gift shopping." Catherine offered a gentle smile. "Yes, well, we took the bus, and it was a long ride, but Andrew was so determined to deliver the package to you, just like a proper mailman, and it was my day off." "I'm not a mailman," the boy corrected, looking up at his mother. "I'm like Santa Claus. It's a Christmas package." Then Andrew perked up and rushed over to Gilbert. "Why aren't you opening it? Aren't you curious?" He looked genuinely disappointed. Gilbert nervously licked his lips, glancing at the package he'd set on a nearby shelf. "I am," he said softly. "Then open it quickly." The boy clapped his hands together. Gilbert surrendered. He, too, was desperate to know what he would find inside, but also terrified. He picked up the box, settled onto the sofa, and placed it on his lap, his fingers tracing the lid. but he couldn't bring himself to open it. Then he took a deep, fortifying breath and finally slowly lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of delicate sky-blue tissue paper, the very shade his mother Vivian had always adored, lay a set of 3 exquisite wooden Christmas ornaments. 3 tiny angels. He carefully picked them up, turning them in his palm. Their delicate wings were perfectly intact. Each angel was unique. One, with a crown of golden curls, cradled a miniature, intricately carved violin, ready to play a silent melody. Another, a graceful figure with a gentle knowing smile, held a tiny shimmering star, as if offering a guiding light. And the third, a cherubic child, with eyes closed in peaceful contemplation, clasped a delicate lily, its petals unfurling in quiet promise. "They're beautiful, aren't they?" Catherine murmured, her voice soft and admiring. Gilbert simply nodded, a lump forming in his throat. His fingers brushed against a letter lying beneath the angels. "We didn't read it," Catherine quickly interjected, her eyes earnest. "Andrew isn't a very strong reader yet, and I didn't." Gilbert opened the envelope, his gaze devouring the familiar handwriting. He had to read the first paragraph 3 times before the words truly sank in. "Hello, my dear boy," his mother had written. "Do you remember our tradition? How every year a new ornament would appear on our Christmas tree? An ornament that would symbolize 1 year and help our wishes come true." Gilbert couldn't help but let out a small choked sound that was half chuckle, half sob. He remembered with painful clarity his mother's almost manic enthusiasm as she'd scour shops searching for the perfect new edition. "And don't you dare chuckle," Vivian's words continued, making Gilbert's cheeks pale slightly. "If you don't recall, the year I found that little airplane ornament, we took our first real adventure together. And the year I hung the little house on the tree, you managed to buy your wonderful new apartment. Oh, how incredibly proud I was of you then." Gilbert paused, the emotions swirling in his head, a bittersweet eddy of grief and gratitude. But soon he returned to the flowing script, to the poignant words penned by his mother's loving hand. "For some reason, I have a feeling that this year you might forget our tradition and not find that special ornament. That's why I'm sending you 3 angels. I want them to help you, to support you in the coming year. I want you to know everything will be all right." His mother had written much more, her wisdom and warmth filling the page, but towards the end she returned to her beloved holiday. "Gilbert, I hope your Christmas and New Year is as wonderful and magical as those we shared when you were a little boy. You can't imagine how the memories of our happy holidays warm my soul, even in these last hours. I love you endlessly, and I will always be with you. Your Mum." Gilbert swallowed hard, his gaze fixed on the final words. "P.S. I've tucked my cake recipe inside this envelope. I hope it finds its way into the hands of my daughter-in-law." He felt perilously close to tears. It would be mortifying, of course, to weep in front of guests, but his heart ached with a profound sorrow and longing for his mother, a crushing loneliness. He felt a soft hand settle on his shoulder. He looked up, startled, to see Catherine's kind face. "Are you all right?"
she asked gently. He swallowed, nodding. Yes, just... He rubbed his face with both hands, then confessed, his voice thick with emotion. Catherine, my mother passed away almost a year ago. I don't understand. I don't understand how this reached me now. He heard a soft gasp escape her lips. Her hand didn't leave his shoulder. Instead, her grip tightened slightly, a comforting pressure. I think it's a miracle, she whispered. Gilbert offered a small, sceptical huff, his expression clearly indicating his disbelief in miracles, yet he knew there was no other rational explanation. Well, Catherine said, her voice deliberately brighter and a little louder, either that or a testament to the Postal Service's unique efficiency. I once read about a man whose package took 5 years to reach him. Can you imagine? Gilbert managed a faint, grateful smile, accepting her gentle attempt at levity. My mummy's gone too, Andrew piped up, his small voice cutting through the heavy silence. Only I have Catherine. Gilbert blinked, taken aback by the child's unexpected confession. He looked at Catherine, whom he'd naturally assumed was Andrew's mother. She offered a small, poignant shrug. Andrew is my younger brother, she explained softly. I became his legal guardian 2 years ago. Our parents, they were in an accident. Thankfully, I was 23, so I could take Andrew in. So your mummy sent you a present from heaven? Andrew's face lit up, a genuine innocent smile blooming on his face. I suppose she did, Gilbert said, a new understanding dawning on him. And you helped deliver it. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much. Lost in thought, Gilbert picked up one of the wooden angels, the one holding the dove, and held it out to the boy. Here, this is for you. Really? For me? Andrew's eyes widened with delight. Really, Gilbert affirmed, a soft warmth spreading through him. He knew his mother would approve. Then he looked down at the cake recipe in his hands. His mother had written it all by hand, every step meticulously detailed. A myriad of emotions swelled within him. There was a pang of shame for his recent dismissal of his mother's cherished holiday, and then a sudden, overwhelming urge to finally pull out the Christmas tree, to decorate it. Maybe, just maybe, he'd even risk setting the kitchen on fire to bake that cake. To recapture the comforting aroma of those familiar layers, not the smell that was currently assaulting his senses. Hold on, Gilbert inhaled sharply, then sprang to his feet. The package nearly tumbled from his lap, but Catherine deftly caught it. The turkey! Gilbert gasped, rushing towards the kitchen. Daisy, sensing the urgency, scampered after him. Catherine and Andrew were a step too slow. Gilbert had already flung open the oven door and, forgetting oven mitts, instinctively grabbed the hot glass baking dish with his bare hand. He managed to pull it out, but with a sharp cry of pain he dropped it. The dish slid forward, crashing onto the floor and shattering. Catherine, frozen in the kitchen doorway, gasped. Andrew's mouth fell open. Daisy, however, wagged her tail joyfully. It would be destined for her. And a good dog loved turkey. Darn it! Gilbert stood, wincing, looking from his throbbing, burned hand to the ruined dinner. I'm so sorry. I promised you dinner. I wanted to roast turkey, and instead I roasted myself. It's all right, Catherine quickly recovered, stepping forward. Let me clear the shards before Daisy gets to them, and I'll take a look at your hand." Gilbert and Catherine efficiently dealt with the culinary catastrophe. Then the nurse carefully tended to Gilbert's burn, gently blowing on it to ease the discomfort. Gilbert felt that strange fluttering sensation again, a warmth spreading through him. Catherine was sitting incredibly close, her fingers gentle and precise. She wore no makeup, but her eyelashes were naturally dark and curled, and her skin was clear, with a natural healthy blush. "There," she smiled, looking up, her blue eyes meeting his. Their gazes met, and both Gilbert and Catherine blushed, suddenly aware of their close proximity in the small kitchen. "Maybe we should just order something," Gilbert suggested, a touch awkwardly. "I can't let you leave hungry." "Yes!" exclaimed Andrew, his eyes lighting up. "I want pizza with pepperoni and extra cheese." Catherine shook her head fondly at her brother's simple delight. Then her eyes fell upon the recipe page from Vivian's letter. "Oh, how interesting, a Christmas cake," she murmured with a smile. "We were so busy this year, we completely forgot to bake any cookies, and Andrew just loves them." Gilbert, who had already pulled out his phone to call for delivery, suddenly blurted, "How about we make the cake? Would you want to? I think I have all the ingredients from my grocery run today." Seeing Catherine's surprised look, he offered a sheepish grin. "We'll be waiting for the delivery anyway, and I was hoping to try baking it myself, but, well, you saw how that turned out." He gestured wryly at his bandaged hand. Catherine chuckled softly. "Well, why not? It sounds like fun." A warmth spread through Gilbert's chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced in months. Soon the kitchen was alive with activity. Catherine moved with an effortless grace, deftly navigating the recipe that, to Gilbert, still looked like ancient elvish script. Her younger brother Andrew was an eager, if sometimes clumsy, apprentice. Gilbert mostly tried to stay out of the way, fetching bowls, spoons and ingredients, and occasionally offering a supportive word. Daisy, too, played her part, quietly observing from a safe distance, tail thumping contentedly. The true highlight for the impromptu trio was baking the cookies. As the first batch of little evergreen trees went into the oven, Gilbert recognized the scent that had haunted him earlier, that unmistakable fragrance of cocoa, warm spices, and a hint of honey. Soon the cake, lovingly decorated by Andrew, was nestled in the refrigerator, soaking up the rich cream. The delivery driver arrived with boxes of pizza and drinks, and the three of them settled onto the living room floor in front of the television, forgetting the perfectly set dining table. "When are you going to decorate your tree?" Andrew asked, licking pizza sauce from his fingers. "I hadn't really thought about it," Gilbert admitted. "Let's do it tonight." Andrew's eyes brightened. "We're still waiting for the cake anyway. Or do you want to eat it all by yourself?" The boy narrowed his eyes suspiciously. Catherine nearly choked on her pizza, trying to disguise her laughter as a cough. "No, I wouldn't do that to you," Gilbert chuckled, a genuine laugh finally escaping him. Then he nodded. "If you two are free, then yes, let's decorate it. I can drive you home afterward." And so the festive work began again. Gilbert barely blinked, and his home was transformed into a wondrous, festive and cosy haven, just like the one from his childhood. The Christmas tree was magnificent, twinkling with lights. The 3 wooden angels from his mother's package were the last to be hung on its graceful branches. Andrew, after a moment of thoughtful consideration, hung the angel Gilbert had given him as well. "But that was your gift," Gilbert pointed out gently. "I just don't want them to be apart," Andrew explained, his small voice earnest. "I think they should be together." A profound desire stirred in Gilbert's heart, a sudden, overwhelming urge to do something truly magical for this remarkable little boy. "Did you write a letter to Santa this year?" he asked, his voice soft. "What did you ask for?" He wondered if he could somehow become a wizard for this child. "To be honest, no," Andrew confessed. "I'm not sure if Santa Claus is real. I want to believe, but my friends Liam and Noah say he isn't. They say it's just dads in costumes. But I don't have a dad anymore, even though Catherine says I do. What do you think?" Gilbert crouched down, meeting the boy's earnest gaze, a gentle smile on his face. "I'm quite certain he's real," he whispered, his voice conspiratorial. "I saw him once late at night." The boy's eyes, as blue and clear as his sister's, sparkled with renewed hope. "You did?" "Uh-huh," Gilbert confirmed. "Who knows? Maybe you'll see him too." Gilbert thought of the old Santa Claus suit tucked away in a dusty box, unworn for years. It seemed it was finally time to bring it out again. The cake, though not devoured on Christmas morning, was utterly delightful, and even more wonderful were those last few days leading up to Christmas's Eve. His mother's letter, a miracle that had somehow found its rightful owner, and the kind souls who had helped that magic happen had instilled a profound hope within Gilbert. Now he too looked forward to the Christmas, and even the sight of tangerines no longer brought a pang of sorrow, but a flicker of joy. On the Christmas Eve, Gilbert donned the crimson Santa Claus suit. He had arranged it all beforehand with Catherine and arrived at their modest home in the quiet hours after Andrew had gone to bed. Catherine gently awoke her brother and led him to the living room, where the twinkling Christmas tree stood. Gilbert, humming a soft holiday tune, began placing gifts beneath it. He had bought many, many presents, gifts for Andrew and thoughtful tokens for Catherine too. He heard whispers from behind him, but he didn't turn around, his heart pounding with joy for the little boy who was glimpsing a miracle. As Gilbert left their apartment, stepping back into the hush of the winter night, he finally understood the true meaning of the holidays. It wasn't about lavish celebrations or grand gestures. It was about bringing happiness to someone else. How profoundly good it felt to have succeeded. Gilbert celebrated the new year with Catherine and Andrew. As the clock chimed midnight, he made a wish, his gaze meeting Catherine's across the room. And that wish came true. He shared not only that new year, but all the years that followed with Catherine and Andrew. Their family grew, blessed with a daughter, Lily, her laughter a sweet melody in their home. Each Christmas, Gilbert and Catherine lovingly continued the traditions, ensuring their children's holidays were always filled with wonder and warmth. In the end, Vivian had been right. The three angels had indeed brought him happiness. The cherished cake recipe had found its way to her daughter-in-law. And wishes made on Christmas's Eve truly do come true. All it takes is a little bit of faith.